Hi guys, this is Robert from Tennis Tips UK, and today we're going to take a look ahead to the Australian Open, the first Grand Slam in 2017. So it's no surprise really to see Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic as the two clear favourites. It's pretty much been that way for all Grand Slams for the past year or so, if not more really. So the first thing to say is the majority of money seems to be backing Andy Murray, which isn't really a surprise considering he's just taken over the world number one ranking. He dominated men's tennis in the latter stages of last year. So as I say, it's no real surprise to see the money going there, but at odds of 2.5, 2.6, the value isn't really there. Selections like that aren't really going to deliver profit long term. You've got Novak Djokovic around the same price, maybe slightly higher odds at Betfair, Betfred, but again, not a huge margin of value there. If I was going to have to pick between Murray and Djokovic, who clearly are the two most likely players to win the event, I would go for Novak Djokovic. It's still fresh in everyone's mind, the performances that he put in November, December last year, as in 2016. But again, I feel that all he's lost is the motivation since he won the French Open. So, physically he's still there. Obviously, he's still got the same ability that's given him all the Grand Slam wins. And so I feel after a rest, over the festive period, he'll be back. Maybe not to his best, but close to it. You can see that Ladbrokes, Coral, William Hill, all their traders are putting Murray and Djokovic at the same price at 2.5. But really, when it comes to outright winner markets, the way to make profit long term is to look at the underdogs, to look at markets that give large returns. And you've got Stan Wawrinka, obviously a winner in Australia before. The conditions, the court speed are good for him. You've got Juan Martín del Potro still there. I'm not sure why he's still showing at some bookmakers. He isn't going to be competing due to injury problems, so obviously disregard him. Milos Raonic, the Canadian big server, may struggle. One of the things about the Australian Open is the conditions. It's quite brutal. The temperature very high. There's been issues in recent years at this event where players have had to withdraw. They've been fainting, collapsing. So it's a real physical test, especially in men's tennis when it's over 5 sets. So with that in mind, the likes of Kei Nishikori at 25-1, he's appealing obviously for his ability. He can beat anyone on his day. The conditions are good, the court's good for him. But he does seem to struggle physically throughout the whole year. To compete with the likes of Andy Murray when it comes to endurance and Novak Djokovic is obviously very challenging. So I would avoid Kei Nishikori for that reason. Obviously, you have to take a difficult path to win a Grand Slam. You've got to go through all the rounds, the quarterfinal, semi-final. They could be 4-5 hour matches, potentially playing a few of them over just a 2 or 3 day period, which means recovery time and physicality are very important at this event in particular. You then got Rafael Nadal, who for me is probably the best value looking at the prices available here. Obviously, the last few years he's been below his best. He still put together some decent results, but obviously compared to when he was younger, when he was the world number one, when he dominated tennis, people are obviously contrasting his performance in 2015 and 16 to that level. But he's changed his coaching team. He's got Carlos Moya, I believe it is, come in from, he coached Milos Raonic last year. So he's made those changes to his coaching team. He opted to rest in the last part of 2016, to prepare for this season. So I feel that physically he's ready. He's got no injury problems. With the changes to his coaching setup, hopefully he'll play aggressively again. The biggest problem for him over the past few years, aside from the injuries, is the fact his forehand is just nowhere near as effective as it normally is. He just seems to be, playing it safe, not going for the lines, and that has a big effect over a 3-5 set match if you're not pushing your opponent, especially when you've got players with the defensive skills of Andy Murray, Novak Djokovic. There's going to be lengthy rallies, and you really have to push, get the angles to win the points. So, yeah, Rafael Nadal to me is good value. Obviously, it's high variance, this event, because there's no data from the past month because there's been the festive break. There's very little tennis other than ITF events. And so it's difficult to use form data, obviously, because there's just a lack of it. But I do feel that Rafael Nadal is good value at 25 to 1. That's a significant price. I mean, the Australian Open has never been a great event for him. He's won it before. But yeah, conditions aren't perfect. The way the court plays isn't perfect for him. But at 25 to 1, I feel that is a significant overvaluation. The price is too big for him there. And then looking down, you've got Nick Kyrgios, obviously playing in his home country, hugely talented, but normally lacks the mental focus needed. I mean, for example, if you watch a Andy Murray Novak Djokovic match when they're both playing their best, the match is often decided by a few key points or a single game. And Nick Kyrgios almost never gets through an entire match without some sort of problem he has, some sort of lack of focus. Obviously, it's been well publicised, the fact that he sometimes tanks points, loses on purpose. So it depends whether he's mentally there. Physically, he's definitely ready. He's got huge ability on serve. When he's playing well, he's basically untouchable. And he loves the atmosphere. The atmosphere at the Australian Open will be great with the crowd behind him. That does make a tangible difference to his performance. So, Nick Kyrgios, not bad at 40 to 1. But I do feel he just lacks the mental side of his game at the moment. Hopefully that will come with time as he matures. But at the moment it's difficult to see him beating someone like Andy Murray, Novak Djokovic. He could take a set off them, but then when it really comes to it, when he needs to see the match out, when he needs to be fully committed and focused, mentally, over 5 sets, over many hours, it just doesn't seem that likely that he's going to produce that at the moment. And obviously to win the event, he'd have to do that on multiple occasions against world-class opponents. So yeah, I would avoid him. At 40 to 1, I feel that the price is good, but just doesn't seem that likely this early in his career, maybe in a few years' time. And you've got Marin Cilic at 50 to 1. Again, obviously a Grand Slam winner at the US Open, but not really his sort of event. Again, I feel physically he would struggle. Dimitrov, talented, but not really able to stay consistent throughout Grand Slam so far. Thomas Berdych, again, very dangerous player. Powerful forehand, big serve, but at times he's quite one-dimensional, and if you put him against an opponent who has great defensive skills like Murray or Djokovic, you normally find he can be sort of worn down. So you got Dominic Thiem. Again, I mean, very talented, had a huge 2016 season, successful. He's very good on clay courts, but again, I'm just thinking with the hard court at the Australian Open, it's not perfect for him the way it plays. At 100 to 1 with Boyle Sports, it's a decent price, but I just feel he needs another few years to fully mature But he does have, in my opinion, he has the edge over Nick Kyrgios in that he is mentally focused. He has that part of his game ready and fully developed now. But again, I feel that at the moment, Dominic Thiem and Nick Kyrgios are just a step too far for them at this event. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them win this Grand Slam and others in the future. Just I feel they're a few years off full mental and physical maturity. You got Tsonga as well. And there's others not shown here. The bigger underdogs like Alexander Zverev. He's again hugely talented, the young German, but it's just consistency that's so rare in young players. So for that reason, I would avoid it. So looking at the options we've got here, we've gone for Rafael Nadal at number 1, and we've discussed this at length. Me and the fellow traders here at Tennis Tips UK, and at 25-1 the price is huge. It's difficult when players reach the end of their career, because clearly Rafael Nadal is beyond his best in terms of his peak years, but that doesn't mean that he's going to decline and never return to a level close to his best. His performances over the past few years, it's very rare for a player to decline that fast, so there's issues there, whether it's sort of mental belief. He's also had injury issues as well, but I really feel with the new coaching setup this year, he's given himself time to recover, really focus on this season. I feel that he's going to have an edge over the other top players at this first Grand Slam of the year. At number 2, Novak Djokovic. To clarify, these bets have been ordered or ranked based on the level of value that they present. That's what we always look for in bets, is the risk to reward ratio. So for example, if a player is priced at evens and they have a 50% chance of winning, that's their win probability, then long term you'd expect to break even. But if you can find a player that has a 60% chance of winning, for example, and they're priced at odds of like 2-1, for example, then obviously that's going to deliver long term. And it's that's obviously a very basic way of looking at it, but that's the same method that you must apply to all methods of sports betting. Is it going to deliver long term? And it's difficult at the time, but sometimes the correct bet isn't the one that wins. For example, say that in this event it's Andy Murray and Rafael Nadal who make it to the final, and Andy Murray wins in 5 sets. He just wins a few crucial points and gets it. Clearly, the Rafael Nadal bet would lose and Murray would win, but was Murray good value at, I believe it was like 6-4, like 2.5, or was it Rafael Nadal at 25-1? It's easy to make the mistake of focusing short term, but you've always got to look at the bigger picture and was it the right trade. But yeah, as I say, I feel Rafael Nadal 25-1, big price, mentally, physically ready for the season. He's done well at the Australian Open before, even though the conditions aren't perfect for him. Obviously, he prefers the much slower courts. Like, for example, his record at Roland Garros over the past decade illustrates what the slower surface can do. And also, he's got the top spin on his forehand as well. So, 25-1, that's the main advisory, the main tip from Tennis Tips UK for this year's Australian Open. You got Novak Djokovic in second place. I feel that it's easy to side with Murray because his performance in the later part of 2016 was very impressive, and it's still fresh in everyone's mind how poor Novak Djokovic was as well. But after he's had a break, he's mentally refreshed. He's made some changes as well with his coaching team. He's fired Boris Becker. I feel if he takes a positive, fresh approach into the new season, then clearly he's got the ability, as he's shown over the past few years. So he's definitely got to be there. And the key thing also is the physicality. It's only really Andy Murray that can rival him in terms of pure sort of physical endurance. And I mentioned earlier the conditions at the Australian Open are quite difficult. The temperature is incredibly high, and it really is a physical test over 4 or 5 sets. That's going to be a challenge for everyone, and that will make a tangible difference to the eventual winner, I believe. So, Novak Djokovic, decent probability of winning, but what's putting us off both Murray and Djokovic is the price. It's really quite low, considering the variance, the amount of matches they have to get through, the quality of the field as well. Although, Novak Djokovic, Andy Murray dominate tennis at the moment, the rest of the field is so strong. There are players everywhere who can beat them if they have a good day, if they produce their best. Nick Kyrgios, for example, he can beat any of the top players. Dominic Thiem as well could do it. Wawrinka always seems to raise his level against the big players, and that's why we've included him as the third best value here, because firstly you're getting the big price, 12-1. He always does well at the Australian Open, and he is one of the thing about Stan Wawrinka is he frequently loses in the early rounds of tournaments against low quality opponents, and I say low quality in relation to the world's best. Obviously they're still incredible players, but he struggles often to find the motivation in the early rounds. When it's not the big stage, when he's expected to win, he often struggles to produce his best. You'll see the unforced errors, especially with his backhand, and almost always when he faces the big players in the quarterfinals, semi-finals, final, he seems to transform into a completely different player. For example, in the Roland Garros final against Novak Djokovic a few years ago, he was just unplayable for that. Novak Djokovic didn't really stand a chance. And that is the dangerous thing, and that's the key difference between Stan Wawrinka and the sort of young guns I was talking about earlier, like Dominic Thiem and Nick Kyrgios. Is Stan Wawrinka rises to the occasion when he plays the big names like Djokovic, Murray, Federer. He thrives against them. He has the confidence because he knows he's beaten them before. Whereas when you see Nick Kyrgios against Andy Murray, no matter how well he's been playing earlier in the week, Kyrgios normally falls apart against Murray. He just doesn't have the sort of mental application and belief that he can beat him. So they're the 3 main selections. So you've got Rafael Nadal, to clarify, the best value in our opinion at 25-1. You've got Novak Djokovic at just below 2-1, and you've got Stan Wawrinka at 12-1. I'd say Murray obviously is going to be difficult to beat. He does have the physical edge over most of the rest of the ATP Tour, but it's going to be difficult for him to maintain the level that he produced in 2016. It was pretty incredible the way that he took the world number 1 ranking, but I feel that there's going to be a lull. It's almost impossible to maintain a level that high, and as I say, I believe that Rafael Nadal is a key contender at such a big price. The value is definitely there. Novak 2-1, Stan Wawrinka capable of beating anyone, has proven it. The conditions are good for him at the Australian Open as well. The way the court plays is good for him. So they're the main 3 selections from Tennis Tips UK. So if you're wondering, I'm from Tennis Tips UK, which is a investment service. We provide daily ATP, WTA, Challenger advisory, occasionally ITF matches as well, especially during the winter. And our service has been profitable each year since it was founded. That was back in 2013, and our record is now fully tracked and verified. You can find it on BettingJS, Tipster, the platform, and we also keep a spreadsheet ourselves, but as I say, it's fully verified. The URL of our website is provided there. There'll be links in the description. I'll put them for our website, information about our service, reviews, and also a link to our record, so you can go and see that as well. And if you subscribe here on YouTube, we're going to provide these videos regularly for upcoming tournaments. Also, there'll be individual match previews as well, and we'll also give a profit loss update for all the tips and all the advisory that have been sent to our members and our subscribers. So thanks for watching, and good luck with your bets.